Okay, it's SCL time. We have music.
Star Citizen Live. It
Here we go.
wasn't supposed to break off. That wasn't the thing. That absolutely.
This is
legitimately
all
happened.
ships,
That actually
apparently.
was very real.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. What are we doing? Hi, welcome to Star Citizen Live, the Invictus All Vehicles Q&A.
When he says, "What are
I'm
we
your
doing
host,
every
Jared
episode?" you
Huckabee.
start to think that it's
If you've never seen an Invictus All
not
Vehicles Q&A before, it's where we spend about an hour and we put questions to the people who make the vehicles and spaceships.
Was there a question thread?
And never a jalopy, still not a jalopy, for Star Citizen and Squadron 42. This is going to be our chance to get to know who they are, get to know how they work. We do this every year for Invictus. Some of the information will be the same, some of the information will change. We compare notes with last year and see how the process has evolved. Eventually, at the end, we'll get to some status update stuff.
They answered 5
we did
questions.
Put up a thread, and the thread was almost
anything on the Argo.
entirely where is my spaceship. That's not what this show's about, but we'll do some status updates at the end, so you can stay tuned for that. Or if you're watching on YouTube, just skip past. We'll put a little whatchamacallit on there, and you can ignore all the good learning that we're going to do and just get to where's my spaceship at
Good
the end.
learning. Today's
So
all
joining
about
us on the
this.
show this week, let's
What
introduce our hapless victims. I mean, my close personal friends. Starting with the chair closest to me, Ben Curtis. Tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
I'm Ben Curtis. I am the Vehicle and Weapons Art Director for Star Citizen. So I look after weapons and spaceships, make them pretty.
Are you still doing weapons?
Still doing
You
weapons.
hand that off when you took over?
Somebody gets mad every one of these episodes. Someone gets mad.
No,
Who is it
still
this
doing
week?
Both of them.
So I neither are quite as good as they could be.
Probably. Yeah. Do lots of things okay rather than anything really well.
All right.
Yeah.
Sitting directly behind him, Mark, the voice of Hercules. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is Mark Gibson. I'm the lead vehicle content designer at Cloud Imperium Games.
And what's a lead vehicle content designer do?
I design content for the vehicle team. We design the actual ships that everyone likes to play with. We decide what goes on them, how strong they are, what the role is, how thin the armor should be, how thick the armor should be. We do the general design for them.
So when a ship comes out initially very good and then it gets
Here we go.
nerfed afterwards.
Oh, you talked to Tyler's team about that?
Tyler?
Yep.
Okay. Corey?
You also actually set the ships up as well, not just...
I mean, we make them, yeah. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
just
yeah.
design them, we actually
Yeah.
implement them,
Yeah,
make them.
actually like making the stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, no, it's all right. It was your time.
You're
Just
underselling
underplaying us.
yourself, mate. Yeah.
Over.
He
You want to
he
spend your
draws them.
introduction, showering
Right?
Mark with praise. Go right ahead.
He's
does
the
this all
guy
the time.
who draws them, I think.
I'm Corey Bamford. I'm a senior lead vehicle artist on the vehicle content team.
Yeah.
So basically just helping the vehicle artists, basically day to day and trying to sort of get our stuff together and, improve things and that kind of stuff.
Did you say senior lead?
Yeah.
Because there's senior and then there's lead, and now you're senior lead?
Yeah, I think they're just making up titles at this point.
How long have you been here?
How long have I been at the company?
Yeah.
8 years and a bit.
I've been here longer than this
Wow.
guy. I want to be senior lead.
You need to talk to your boss, mate.
Hey, Chris, now you watch the show. Senior lead of whatever the heck I do. And then last and certainly least, John Crew, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I'm John Crew, I'm the vehicle director, so I have
So he's the senior lead
the
of
pleasure of
everything.
looking after all the teams, so all the designers, all the artists, tech artists, all the people that make spaceships and vehicles, not just in the UK, but in the US and Montreal as well.
Guys, if I'm low energy today, I'm
Disturbed
sorry.
Angel says, Jared,
I had a
aren't
hockey
you the
game. I got
only
home at
person who
like
does
1
what you do?
a.m.
Yeah, that's why I don't get it.
Stream started at 6:30.
Who
I was
am I
up
lead
at
at?
4:45.
Just me. All right. So we're going to jump into the questions.
I'm
Our
just gonna
first
warn you
section,
now.
Our first
I'm
topic
running
of
out.
discussion for this week's show. What are you looking at, Corey?
I could bump the audio a little bit.
Just
Yeah.
looking at me on the monitor?
I was looking at the chat, actually. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do
I
that.
said, don't look at the chat.
Sorry.
Don't worry,
Sorry.
chat.
I'm sorry.
Don't give them
Will
attention.
destroy your soul.
All right. I was just wanting to see if they were saying nice things about me.
I promise
you
chat
looked at
has
Twitch?
never said
I play
anything
hockey,
nice
yeah.
about you.
Oh.
That's not true. Chat, if you want to say something nice about Corey, take this
To
moment.
be fair,
So-
he did get the best in-game character creator.
Oh, yeah. I
don't.
really like
Yes.
Don't, Ben.
Apart from yours, obviously. But
I saw some
second on that
pretty.
list.
I saw some mixed Jareds, to be honest.
Okay. Well, I saw an amazing Corey.
You're of course referring to when the character creator first came out and people were doing the things.
Yeah.
Somebody attempted to do everybody on the ship team, and Corey's bore a striking resemblance, perhaps not to Corey, but to a fictional ruler of a fantasy land.
quite possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel, Corey?
I mean, I've been actively pursuing the Lord Farquaad aesthetic for a while, so I mean, it's good to get the recognition, really.
Final form, mate.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
When we did talk about potentially getting you a Farquaad outfit and showing up here, we forgot.
Yeah. Did.
Next time.
IE. Let's do it.
All right, so we've dillied and dallied enough. Let's get into the topics of discussion. The first point area of discussion for this week's show is basically how vehicles get made. We're going to talk for a little bit on the YouTube channel, just say how vehicles get made here. We're going to talk a bit about the process, why, how they get made, why certain decisions are made, stuff like that, and jump into that. So let's start. We've got two artists, well, an artist and an art director, and a designer and an overall. You were originally design director, now you're just kind of overall director. But it's not just designers and artists who make the ships. So walk us through. Start with designers and artists, but take us through who makes these things.
Oh God. Okay.
What are the positions? Don't shout everybody else.
We're at the beginning where they explain things.
Every start, sort
I
of
wanna skip
roughly
to the
in
juice.
pipeline order. You tend to start with designers coming up with the briefs. Then it goes to.
I've heard this
It goes
for
around a lot of people to make sure the designers
10
are not
years,
doing
man.
wild things in briefs. That sounds a bit odd.
Skip
but
40
okay.
minutes. Yeah, I have a feeling.
There's concept team.
The designer makes boom booms and
Yeah. Concept team makes the words become pretty pictures. Then we've got the vehicle art team who make pretty pictures become pretty 3D objects. Designers set them up, tech artists set them up, and then we've got a whole bunch of downstream and sort of upstream dependencies. If the new vehicle or an existing vehicle has gameplay people need to work with us on that to give us information. Especially if it's new coming alongside a vehicle, they need to sort of work hand in hand with, hey, feature X is doing this, we need this from your ship, and we do that, and they go, actually, it's not quite how we envisioned it. Can we adjust things as we go?
And those gameplay people aren't on ship teams.
No.
Those are gameplay teams.
No, there's
the Torsten Lymans and the Yogis and stuff. They're the people that make salvaging, that make mining stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the feature development teams, and the designer takes it from the original concept all the way through, and we liaise with a lot of different departments and teams to make sure that all of the features that make the ships fun to play actually work when they're implemented on vehicles, because it's a very different experience of how something would be with FPS ground and how it then needs to be implemented on an actual vehicle to work. So there's a lot of back and forth, and maybe things change and tweak to make it work a bit better with the vehicle.
With redundant info?
It just depends on.
Yeah, it's redundant to you and I, but it's not redundant for somebody who's just finding out about the game now. They try to explain game development because I don't know. I think maybe the idea of filling it with game development has been redundant and filler for the entire time. I don't know.
It was envisioned to work.
Yeah.
And I think we say that we've got upstream teams and downstream teams, but then one of our upstream teams, like the feature team that developed mining or salvage, probably is a better, more relevant or more recent thing, is they also have dependencies and upstream teams. So they'll have input from the UI team and the branding team and whoever else to get their feature working. And then we kind of supply them, so we're kind of downstream to them. But it's kind of
a big web
themselves.
of connected teams.
My understanding is that the branding team sometimes tells you what colors a manufacturer should be and should not be.
We have discussions over it. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Passionate discussions.
Yeah. I think it's good to get these things ironed out and get them out in the open. So yeah, I think to be fair, they've done a really good job at bringing all of the I think everyone is a little bit guilty sometimes of zeroing in on the details of one particular thing. So we tend to have years that are quite heavy in a particular manufacturer. So when we have a year that's quite heavily in a particular manufacturer, we tend to kind of zone in on that. And you sometimes
Should a manufacturer be any color? Or should we get to choose the color?
Sometimes you
Inside
desperately
and
want to
out.
do something different, and the brand guys are like, well, that doesn't really work with that.
Yeah, no, I mean they're pretty flexible. I think the
Ferrari.
The biggest one has been the
yellow,
Crusader stuff,
black.
where the red and the blue, or the red and the white and the blue and
red.
the white and that sort of stuff. So getting those things kind of more consistent across the game is.
It started out as the
super
red
good.
and the blue, and now it's moved to the
So it's a bit of a story. So I don't know if
I've
now's
seen
a
them
good-
different
red
colors.
and the white. It started with the red and the white, and then it went to the blue and white. But then I noticed the Firebird looks red and white. And the first time I saw the Firebird,
thing
I
is-
thought it looked like Crusader.
But you can't like.
Can't
have a lot-
monopolise colours.
Yeah, we have a lot of grey ships, and you can't say grey ships are like some colours. Like Argo's orange. Does that mean we're never going to make another orange ship? I don't know. I don't know.
Like orange tints for
Like,
the ships, I guess.
You get red Fords.
Like I hate the idea that this is their line of thinking around ships, because my Argo isn't orange. My Argo has a skin on the outside, but the inside is still orange. It's kind of weird. It doesn't make sense.
So you get red Ferraris. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm for it. We've had these conversations before where I'm very much for the when the new Ford Mustang came out, I think it was the Charger that was technically first in that, and then you saw all these other manufacturers go, oh, we can do that, and you saw that one design from that manufacturer start to replicate out to other manufacturers. I think they absolutely say, well, I want to be like, we need our answer to that, and I need our answer to that. So the manufacturers should divide and then converge and all that kind of stuff.
But I think
looks.
I do think it's important that as we've mentioned many times that lots of teams work on lots of things at once. So if you can bring all of that stuff to kind of be coherent, it's really
This is
good.
rough so
But
far.
that doesn't mean there's not flexibility in it, because not every Crusader
And we got an hour
captain
left.
pilot wants a white ship, and why should they?
I love color. I'm always for the more colorful things. All right, so all that talk about audio. Obviously the audio folks play a big role in the ship's personality and identity.
VFX huge as well, because
Yeah.
it gives the ambient effects and everything. We get help from lighting team as well, so that they do some standardization, so that we get
gets
a
more
better feel on
interesting.
headlights
I
and
hope
the
so.
intensities of
I
them. We
hope
recently had
so.
a massive pass from them, so they set new standards to make sure that we had nice consistency amongst all the headlights. There's barely any teams that we don't work with one way or another eventually.
Yeah. Even on like once the vehicle is done, ready for release, then there's all the teams that deal with actually getting it out the door. So there's the platform teams, the website teams,
The
QA.
inordinate amount of QA
Yeah.
time that gets spent on them to make sure, because at the end of the day when it goes out, people start using them, they want them to be in the best state that we can get them, so trying to find all the issues and bugs and resolve them and get them just to be as good as possible for the release.
My favourite team is the marketing team, because they take our stuff, they just make it really, really pretty. So
Yeah.
Not a fan.
you're not a fan? Oh,
Not a fan of marketing.
okay. I love like you give it to them and you're not quite sure what you're going to get back in the trailer, and then you kind of get the initial
Did
cut. and
Jared
you're like,
finally
okay,
admit that
yeah,
he's
okay.
just marketing?
There's days I feel like marketing, days I feel like community, and there's days I feel like editor of the school newspaper. And I'm kind of out here.
That's a good
Doing my
description
thing.
of
That's
him,
supposed to- I'm
actually.
probably not supposed to sound.
It's
got
different
favourites,
each
am I?
day.
Yeah, you have favorites.
Okay.
I have favorites. I love the Genesis Starliner.
We know.
I hate the Rock DS. The Rock DS is stupid.
Why don't you like
I've
it?
got 6 questions about the Rock DS and why
What
they
don't you
happen.
like about it? What don't you like about it?
We don't got time. We don't got time.
Okay,
We don't got
We
time.
don't got time for the
So
Rock DS
big.
today.
Can of worms.
All right. So obviously, what we've gotten here, what we can take from that is that
I'm not
ships are
skipping
made by
ahead.
far more than just the people that are on distinct vehicle teams. You don't have individual VFX artists. You don't have individual audio folks. It's your team working with a vast network of other teams. You look like you were about.
I just like. We also got Shower Production, because they're the ones that make all of these teams work together, and quite often, because they're not actually clicking a button and moving stuff around in the editor, they kind of get maybe forgotten about. But yeah, they're a massive part of it as well, is making sure that all works together.
Who's your favorite producer?
I'm not allowed to say.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're like children. You got to, can't have favourites.
I was always my mom's
Whichever one you
favorite kid.
don't answer for is going to make things worse.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can't decide who's going to come through that door first.
Yeah.
Marketing or production.
Just expect our calendars to be completely booked moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, all your timeline's going to go to hell now. This was your chance, and you didn't take it. Sorry.
I'm
Sorry. No,
not
sorry.
prepared to answer.
All right. So obviously, let's let's bring this back to within the vehicle teams, though. So there are a collection of people who are dedicated to this. The VFX people
Can we
have
bring it to
this,
the question
and VFX for the rest of the game. Audio people have this, and audio for the rest of the game.
All vehicles Q&A.
For the people who are dedicated, the people who spend all their time making vehicles. We've got 5 studios around the world. How is this broken up? Well, where are their teams? What's their makeup? Do they have focuses? Do they have like?
I mean, Jared's asking questions.
Does Montreal only work
technically.
on this, and Austin only work on this kind of stuff? How's the vehicle team breakdown?
So, generally speaking, the way we assign it is no one studio site has any particular manufacturer, but we'll do it by project. So, if let's say we were going to make, I don't know, the Crusader jalopy, we would.
No.
Let's say, not that do.
Don't
Let's
say that
Let's
word.
say.
So we would
Theoretically.
figure out how long it was going to take by doing an estimate. Once we had a general estimate, we'd see the resources and bandwidth, but generally it would try and
The estimate would be wrong by approximately 1/4, as is standard.
stay within a single team. So it would either stay within the Montreal team, and the design of the Montreal team would handle it, and the artists would take it through. Obviously, not all studios have all the teams that we need, such as audio and VFX, so we'll have to go to a different studio for support for that. But for the actual internal vehicle team, we try to keep them local to the actual studio. So they all get, it's a lot easier to work within the same time zone for quick iteration on things. And the UK team, for example, is much bigger than some of the others. So we actually have the vehicle team from an art perspective, split into 3 separate groups to make it easier to manage the different vehicles that we're taking through the actual pipeline process. And the vehicle team's gotten to the size from an art perspective where we actually need 3 different art teams within the UK side to do it.
Yep.
But generally speaking, it's not. I know that in the past people used to think that, oh, the US do all of the RSI ships, I think it was, and the UK do all of the Drake ships. But
I mean, they did.
That was just what was assigned to them at the time.
Yeah.
And it'll be like that moving forward. It's whatever time slots we have on different teams, and it could be that we change. One team might work on a big ship for 18 months.
Do you think they're going to start delivering ships faster and make new ones? Like, I feel like we haven't seen the result of like all the hiring they've done yet. I think it's going to take a little while.
And then big ship is tiring for 18 months, so then we do smaller projects afterwards, and the big ship goes.
I mean, maybe it's not going to be faster, but maybe it's going to be like more like larger ships are going to get done. I mean, technically it's faster, but larger ships will get done than maybe we
Goes to a
expected.
different group instead.
Yeah. Doing
So
back-to-back
just,
capital ships is, obviously
crushing.
quite. Well, crushing. Yes. Yes. It's I think giving people a variety of manufacturers to work on is important. If you're only making anvil ships for like 5 years, you're obviously going to get pretty bored of anvil ships. So I think it is nice that people get the opportunity to work on different manufacturers.
Yeah.
From an artistic standpoint, like keeping it fresh, challenging yourself, with learning new styles, basically.
We've got a whole section we're going to move into where it essentially boils down to why. Why do you do this? Why do you do this instead of this? But I think what I'd want to make sure that we get this here because we're touched on it and we may not remember it then.
Then why are they doing the Polaris and all the RSI big ships in a row?
You have to keep the artists, the artist designers, you have to keep them engaged.
Yeah.
It's an important factor, not the only one. Obviously, we'll talk about all the factors in a bit, but it's very important to consider this person just did 4 Drake ships. We need to give them something else. We need to give them something else to keep them engaged, to keep them doing the best quality work that they can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm sure, we won't say any names, I'm sure there's got to be somebody in the history where it's like, they tried a miss ship once and was like, we're never giving you a miss ship ever again. You are clearly awesome at Anvil and awesome at Aegis, but that's a style that just doesn't work with your brain. So am I wrong? These considerations
I think
exist.
you're absolutely right in that.
People have favourites.
Yeah, people definitely have favourite brands, and people have brands that they just don't particularly like, which is kind of, I guess, life in general. But
Yeah.
I think it
We
is
do as
super
well.
important to like challenge people. So a lot of people in like the creative industry really strive off of that, challenge and reward. So giving people new opportunities to kind of try out new things and kind of get more experience in different fields is like super important. And ultimately, if you are making the same thing over and over and over, different ships, but you're always on a particular art style, there is that element of burning people out with that, and all you really kind of get from that is
Amadeus.
like
Josh
a drop
Coons
in
is not there anymore.
ideas and a drop in kind of creativity.
He was
I
in
don't care
Austin.
about that, Ben. I just want my ship.
At least I
made.
don't think he is.
What ship do you want?
Genesis Starliner.
All right.
No.
Right.
The other thing,
Well,
the other thing
so we'll get to that later.
yeah, the other thing is worth mentioning about that is there is a benefit to having experience with a certain manufacturer. So if you've worked on a Crusader ship before, you probably understand the style,
Right.
and it's going to take you less time to ramp up and to
Right.
get to know it. So there's certainly a benefit to people having a broad experience and being able to work, basically say, I've worked on Drake ships, I've worked on Crusader ships, that way, because we are divvying out stuff like, it's not like we've got a Drake team or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's kind of there's pros and cons.
There's
I
no
think
one.
it's
What
a
an
healthy
SCL,
balance
yeah.
between
It's just
variety
these game
and
dev
also making
ones,
sure that
man,
people
they're
have the right
brutal.
skills to get the job done.
So we're on this. I'm gonna jump ahead. I want to get. It's still this topic. Let's move into the the what's going on in Y phase. For lack of a better term.
Thank you, Snugs.
Why do we decide what ships get, or why or how? I suppose how is actually, how do we decide what ships get made? And we touched on some things. Obviously, it's there's got to be using this. We got to make we got to make this ship, and it's in a brand, and we got one person free who knows this brand and is really great, but we've got 3 people free who know this brand and whatnot. So maybe that one gets prioritized because we can kick it out faster and then come to this. That's one consideration we sort of just touched on. But let's start from the top here.
Yeah.
How do we decide
So
what gets made?
this is my special kind of.
I was gonna say we're all just gonna.
This is yours.
We're all gonna
Yeah.
piece
This
out.
is your.
So-
Yep.
John here.
We look at the schedule. Obviously, we know Star Citizen, we joke about internally, we have 6 quarterly patches that we do every year. We have the 4 quarterly patches, Invictus and IE. And we always deliver at least 1 ship in every one of those patches, if not 2 or 3.
Yeah.
We also sometimes do point patches as well. So we can look at a year, so pick this year, next year, whatever, and go, right, we've got these slots, there are ships
always
going in here.
release
and
a
then
ship.
we'll go through and go,
Never the game.
if we are going to do capital ships, that's
Never
going to
the
take up a
gameplay
big
with
chunk
them,
of the
though.
team. So putting a capital ship in here means the rest of these slots become much smaller. We have to balance the delivering backlog ships with fresh ones as well. And it sort of sorts itself out. Once you put a few, it's like doing a big jigsaw puzzle. You go around the edges, well, I do go around the edges, and then you know where you're going from there. So once you put a few of the big pieces in play, you don't really have a lot of options.
Sort of dictates the
Yeah.
rest.
And then we go through that with Chris and Rich, and they go, actually, no,
6
we don't
money
want
injections per year.
we don't want you to do.
There is a ship sale every month. Somebody put a calendar in our Discord. I think there's 1 month where there's nothing there. Everything has. There is a money event every month.
To do this cap ship here, we want it here instead. That changes the order. Or no, we don't actually want that there. We want 2 other things. So it's a lot of iteration, and it sort of boils down to we have chunks of time, a finite amount of people. We could put everyone on capital ships, and then you'd perhaps get 2 or 3 a year globally, and then we've got patches without anything.
2 or 3 ships, period. is what
Yeah.
you're saying,
Yeah.
And we're just talking about new ships as well.
2 or 3 ships, period. Are they going to try to sell larger capital ships still as concepts, almost guaranteed? Are those going to be involved in 1.0? Probably not. I keep arguing that with people and getting kickback about it for some reason. There's a 0% chance that even the ships that are already in the game, or already have been sold, I should say, will make it into the game for 1.0. I don't think so. I don't think it's possible.
Well, I think we're going to talk about this more in a bit as well. 4.0 has a huge amount of support that the vehicle team needs to deliver. So we have to factor that in as well. We can't just go all new ships all the time. We have to work with those other teams.
Every
the
ship
gameplay
needs
teams
a
we
jump
talked about,
point,
they might
a
be coming
jump
online
drive.
with a feature like base building. We need to support that as well. So it's sort of a balance.
That one always often dictates like what we have to put into the schedule, because if it, random example, like when salvage came online, we needed vehicles that can support salvage, so we have to make sure that we can have a vehicle ready to go with that gameplay as it comes online with mining. And so,
But also with that, like, it's not just doing the salvage vehicle, it's the fact that we need to do a pass on every vehicle in game to get them to support that feature.
Be salvageable.
Yeah, salvageable. And even like little things like, oh, we want to, add fire extinguishers. And you're like, okay, cool, that's easy, right? Like, our ships are big. And it's like, well, it's easy on some stuff, it's not easy on others. And if you think, like, we've got, I think we were doing something the other day, we were looking at, spend a month on each ship. And you're like, okay, that's one person for like 16 years. It's a lot of work, right? Or it's 16 people for 1 year. But again, that's,
Then you get nothing else.
You get nothing else. So I think, even like little features,
Jesus.
when you're talking at the scale of the game we've got, it does become like quite a challenge to play that kind of Jenga of stuff, which is why, we have, like, we try and fit these things in, like say, oh, there's a pocket of time here that's got 2 months on someone that could be used for a small ground vehicle.
Mike, do I melt the Idris P and pledge for a Kraken? Stop asking me what to do with your money, dude. Everybody asks us all the time. You don't need some dumbass streamer to validate your even dumber purchases. Like, we're all stupid here. Just be stupid on your own, man. You want to be stupid? Go ahead, be stupid. You want to have fun with your money? You want to do whatever you want to do? Go do whatever you want to do. You don't need my permission to go do it, or you don't need my help to do it. What's wrong with you?
Or we could actually
figure it
tick
out.
off support for 3 other features that are coming in,
Right.
and that gets more gameplay. So,
And you've been saying features a lot. Zealth Gamer in the chat, hi Zealth Gamer, says we
Hi,
won't
Zealth.
have anything. A
Yeah, not
capital
your
ship would be
financial
a huge
advisor.
feature. Not really. A capital ship is not a feature. That's a big giant
It does-
piece of art. It uses game features.
Yeah,
like
and it
resource
delivers-
nav-
At SaltEMike, do I melt my laptop to play Invictus launch week? Star Citizen will do a good enough job of melting your laptop already. So if you play Invictus launch week, your laptop will melt. So you get the best of both worlds.
work.
Interesting gameplay.
I got you there.
well, it's not even
I can
just
help
like,
you with that one.
although it is a huge piece of content, it isn't a feature. And the thing that will make the capital ship engaging is all different features, but we can't easily implement a whole new feature that's meaningful and impactful on only one vehicle, because realistically for it to work, there's going to be things that are going to affect all the other vehicles as well. So resource network is a random example. To make resource work, we can't just say, well, this one ship has it. It's a big, huge system, and to get that to actually work across the board on everything, we need to do at least a base level support across everything, which is a huge amount of work. But if we want that feature and everything that comes with it, we have to go back and adjust and alter all the existing ships to at least work to function with.
This is my favorite part of This Is How Game Development Works videos from Star Citizen, because this is not how it works. Because in a real studio that wouldn't actually make these ships before the features are done, they wouldn't have this problem. And all the enormous amount of work is due to the enormous amount of things that have to get done before the all the ships that have to get sold in order to make the game possible.
With the feature.
And that's and
Garen, I was just kidding around.
That's
I
not to
wasn't
say that we're not punting all capital ships down the line. Wait till we get to the end. We'll have something for you, I promise. But it's important to remember that you guys don't make the gameplay features.
like they're talking about like it in a way of this is how it is. This is how it is at their company, right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done any of these things. They are this is a problem that they created for themselves. It is what it is. I don't think we get the procedural planets or any of the experiences we have in Star Citizen at all without these things. But here we are, right? It is what it is. But they talk about it to us like this is how it is everywhere else in a way. And we're explaining game development to you. I mean, that's what like Jared will say at the end of ISC. And it's like, no, you're not explaining game development. No other studio would do something as stupid as this. Right? And sometimes you do stupid things and like cool shit happens, right? Like, have you ever, done something that you really shouldn't do because it was fucking stupid, but you had a really good time doing it? That's what this game is, I think. That's how this game ended up being what it is,
So it's we were guilty. We've talked about this before,
really
so
dumb
we're
and
not,
it
I'm
worked
not
out.
admitting anything we haven't admitted. We have been guilty in the past of kicking vehicles out that don't have gameplay.
Staff error.
It's like well, here it is because it was art complete.
I love how they just say Starfarer. Like, that's the oldest example of that, and it has its gameplay, but its gameplay is broken now. But the thing is you can name 30 fucking ships, and guess what? One is like in the monthly report right now.
Yeah.
Because you could technically fly it around, and it's like, well, we didn't want to sit on it, but we didn't have gameplay with it, and that didn't build a good experience. I'm not going to say we have learned a lot over the 12 years of our development. That was one of the lessons I think we learned kind of the hard way. As we kicked out ships that were gorgeous and they were designed well, they didn't do anything because the relevant gameplay system wasn't there. So as part of this calculus of figuring out what ships we make and when, there's also that, well, what can the gameplay teams give us? At that can they support this ship with their schedule and their requirements? And if they can't, well, okay, maybe that ship doesn't get made this year; it gets made the next year and stuff like this. So there's all those things you said in the calculus.
How big are the gameplay teams versus the ship teams? How big were the gameplay teams versus the ship teams until recently? Where were all the gameplay teams? What were they doing? They weren't as big. They weren't prioritized. Because I think what CIG was doing was like, in a lot of ways, this seemed like actual proper game development, is they were funding their game without too many investors. And they were trying to build the tech before building the gameplay. And this is how we got into the pickle that we're in, is the tech didn't get done very quickly. So the hiring was done for the ships so they can support the teams that make the tech. And then the gameplay is starting to become a priority now that Squadron 42 is done because all the people that were doing gameplay were over there.
It's a very complex system of moving parts and finding windows and priorities. And that's my next question: is priorities. So
while simultaneously making it
over
amazing,
the years,
I
think the priority
is what it is.
I've seen the priorities of the entire game change. 1 year this is the most important thing, and then the next year that's the most important thing.
Yeah, we all have. And that doesn't sound good.
It's like that. We read the same Reddit. We read we watch the same YouTube videos. We look at the same Twitch streams. We see the things and go, oh, and we go, okay, no, that was a third priority, but really I'm looking at this, I'm seeing it in action, that needs to become second priority or first priority, and we change. Right now in this minute, knowing that this could change
we're being watched. I mean, I don't think Jared watches me or anything, but absolutely my streams have been watched by developers and then something gets prioritized that maybe wasn't. Before, I've definitely seen
Monday morning
happen.
What is the priority for the ship team? For the ship teams, what are you wanting to do?
I mean, I think that varies depending on which department you ask. Because, like, from a designer perspective, our number one priority is to make sure that the ship makes sense from a flow and navigation point of view, and that it functions, and all the features inside the ship that are currently available to function. So if there's a gameplay loop or there's content that should work in it, they do work. That's our priority. That's our number one. And to make sure that when you look at the ship, it makes sense for it to be that way. But that's not art's priority. They have a different set of priorities for what we do, and it'll be the same for tech art. They depending on the department, depends on what your number one priority is. And John's will be completely different again.
Why isn't gameplay the priority?
Because you're more about the bigger picture rather than...
Bigger picture, so the vehicle team exists, like vehicles are the heroes of this game. Like, that's the best analogy that people keep saying. Like, in other games you have your hero characters, sort of ships are those for Star Citizen, I feel, in that everyone's got their favourite, and they're there to do mechanics. So for the vehicle team, it's delivering content that supports those mechanics, whether it's updating existing mechanics like we talked about before, adding in salvage, and refueling was another one that was, there's no point.
Gameplay doesn't make money? That's actual bullshit. That's actual bullshit. Okay, $650 million over 12 years is how much per year? For a game studio of this size and all these things, what they still do not realize is that the decisions they make around ships and not focusing on gameplay has made their life more and more difficult, which creates the cyclical roundabout that goes over and over and over again. Gameplay sells. If this game functioned when people saw it on Twitch, if this game functioned after seeing it on YouTube, the amount of money they would make with the current funding model and not having to add another single ship to the game, I think would surprise people. I point out one game in particular always, but this goes for a million other games. People see a game on Twitch, people see a game on YouTube, people see a game kind of rising up the ranks on Steam, however they come across it. If the game is enjoyable, it will sell. Valheim made more money in a month than CIG made in a year, right? They had more downloads or purchases than CIG has of their entire library, like their entire, what are they called? Like their backer base over 12 years. What do they call them? Citizens, right?
Just putting a refuel port on just one ship for the stuff we need to do it on all
sells.
of them, and that takes time.
If you enjoy the
and
game,
working with those other
gameplay
teams to go like, hey, patch the quarter 2 patch is going to bring this feature online, so we need to update ships with that. Q3 is going to be this, Q4 is going to be this, Q1 next year is going to be this, Q2 next year is going to be this, and sort of getting away from what we did in the past, like you mentioned, of just punting the ships out just because they were done, and working with the other teams to sort of... It's great seeing a ship out there.
That's how you get the Vulture and the Reclaimer
doing the job it was supposed to do.
This problem is how you get the Vulture
where
and Reclaimer.
on the list of priorities would you place wee woo lights, Ben Curtis?
Oh, should I delegate that question to Corey?
Yeah, probably.
Wee woo lights were they weren't going to stop it going out. So we
You're
were
on about the lack of Wii U lights on the medevac, right?
yeah. But
You said it, not me.
so I was pro Wii Woo.
I think we were all pro Wii U lights.
The schedule was not.
However, I have read some feedback on the discussions over this, and I'm maybe thinking that if we were to do them, we certainly need a better way of controlling them, because I believe that they can be a little bit intrusive if you're trying to be maybe a little bit more stealthy.
That's the goddamn point, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you want people to see your Wii U lights. That's why you have Wii U
No,
lights.
Yeah, but if you need to put your headlight
He's talking about, he's about to say it now, so I'll
on
just
so
let
you
him
can
say
see where
it.
you're going.
That just use your Wii U lights. They let you see even better.
Well, you should know, since you're the designer, that you don't get that choice. You press L and all the lights turn on.
There was mixed feedback what I was reading, but no, I wanted them.
You show me who says that other stuff. I'll stop your mixed feedback.
Okay.
They'll never speak about anything ever again.
To be clear, we wanted to put them on. It was just a schedule thing.
Yeah, it's a matter of time. Like we needed to get the ship out.
Uh,
Are
There's other
you
stuff
going on
we wanted-
record that it will get wee woo lights at some point?
Do a Dan McCabe and promise the carrot blast.
Yeah, just
I learned from Dan's mistakes. And
after Dan does the Carrick blast shield.
yeah, after Dan does the Carrick, the blast shield.
I think everyone wants them to have Wii U lights.
Yeah.
We want it to have Wii
To be
U
honest,
lights.
I think
the team wants it to have
yeah.
Wii U lights.
The exterior needs a bit of a pass anyway, with things like damage and so on as well.
Yeah,
like there was a couple of things that we wanted to get
So it's
in
not
for it
done.
that we didn't quite manage to get in time.
Well, it's
We only had one guy working on it. and it was sort of his first project as well. So, you know.
Okay.
Well, it's what happens when we do
One guy on the art
variants of older vehicles. So, like, obviously to release the vehicle with a new feature, because obviously you've been getting asked for the Medivac for years.
Yeah.
We found a slot where we could get something in to do it, but we didn't have a slot big enough to completely gold standard the base Ursa, because that's what it is. It's a variant of the base Ursa, so that's why the front is still the old style dashboard. It's not new and updated like the Lynx's is. It's we have so much time and we get as much done in that time as we can, but at some point it's a case of either nothing goes in that slot or something else goes in that slot, and it was a case of we could get what we did get in, but not everything that we want. We would have loved to do.
And then this is the Invictus problem. Is this slot has an end date where the other slots don't necessarily do. You can give a week, you could take a week, you can go a little further, but Invictus and IAE, they are set in stone, and whatever you get done, you get done, so they're throwing out shit incomplete. It's tough, man. It's tough, because you know how they said they have 6 quarterly patch releases or whatever? Sometimes they half them. You know, they're a quarter of what they could be because of all these issues that they're mentioning. Because this goes for every team during Invictus week. So the Q2 patch or the Q1 patch, whatever it is, whatever you call it for this thing is always gutted because of this event. And then the end of the year one is always gutted for the same reason as well. So we really only get 1 or 2 patches that are focused on the player and focused on gameplay. And that's the shit that I'm talking about, is if they focused every quarter on gameplay and released the ships when they were done, guess what? You would sell a hell of a lot more of them, right? I can't imagine
A full gold
a world where that doesn't make
standard
sense.
on the Ursa, but that isn't the time slot that we had. And if we did do a full gold standard on the Ursa, we definitely wouldn't have had time to do the Medivac. So it's just about seeing what we have time to fit in the slots that we have.
And you know,
Jermaine, I don't know.
Lack of wee lights to distract from how good a job Paddy did on the.
Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like,
It's great.
He smashed it. He absolutely smashed it. So yeah, there was a few things we missed off, but hopefully people will appreciate what was included.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about this message in chat? Deep Rock Galactic, not visually like in comparison to Star Citizen pleasing. I think it is very visually pleasing. Really good game. Moved from early access to full release. Has sold over 8 million units at $20 a unit for $1.6 billion in revenue. Is that proper math? No, it's not. Is it? I don't think that is. I think that's 160 million. I just did the math and I was like, I don't think he's right. It's 160 million, but I don't think they spent that much on development. How much has CIG spent on development? Almost all the money. Yeah. Right?
I mean,
Where did Bro go to school? Probably Florida. Or New Jersey. One of those two, because those are the 2 places I'm from.
Saying I'm having fun with the guys here, but I mean, it's a great addition. We'll you know, with the medbed changes and everything.
Deep Rock
like
Galactic made $1 trillion.
But yeah, it's just you know I'm American. I want butter and syrup on my pancakes.
We did put space to put your medical tool.
I saw that. That was cool. When the gameplay guys got that, they literally were like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah. So we're learning.
I'm just sad we didn't get a chance to do the NHS ambulance skin on it.
I love that skin.
Yeah. Did anyone know we never released the NHS skin, did we? Oh,
that was the only time I was really been scared for my job.
Well, I mean, I'm from America. If we run away from ambulances because ambulance comes at you, you're gonna go broke. So it's like, no, stay away.
I know that story.
Yeah,
I do.
True, yeah.
All right.
Oh, dude,
so
actually, John Crew went through some really shitty shit. He looks good. Like, fairly recently. Like, he was in a hospital for a long time, if I remember. I saw a tweet occasionally, and, dude, it wasn't looking very good for him. Like, I think he was really struggling. So, yeah. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him, but I know it wasn't very good, and it sucked. And I'm glad he looks back to normal to me.
On this topic of why certain vehicles get made, let me drill down specifically to one caveat. I want to ask the question because we see it everywhere.
Happy he's
Why do
well enough to be on the
sometimes
show.
we choose a new vehicle over something from the backlog?
A lot of time, it does generally come down to size and like scope, and
That's such bullshit.
it's game.
How can that be? Why does Jared even ask this question and put him on the spot like this? Size and scope. So you're telling me that you can't gold standard something small in the same amount of time that, like, what is he supposed to say here? He can't say money. Because he can't be honest because it looks disgusting if he is. Like, it's kind of a shitty spot to be put in, right? Money is the answer. He can, why not? Can you? Like, you can. I was the kind of guy that worked at when I worked at the casino, they'd be like, why can't you do this? And I would just be like, because my boss doesn't give a fuck. That's why. Go ask him. He doesn't care. He just sits in his office and doesn't do anything. He's completely checked out. That's why things don't happen here. You know what I mean? The guy's fucking checked out. What do you want me to do? If I go to him and complain, guess what happens? Nothing. It's the same thing. I'm just as mad as you are, but nothing happens. In this case, the dude, they got to make money, so this is how they decide to do it, and that's why they sell these concepts or ships, because new stuff sells better than old stuff, is my guess. But yeah, I feel like if the answer to this is like time, well, there's no way that gold standarding something takes more time than making an entirely new ship altogether. That's total bullshit. It's money, and it's not on him. I feel bad for him to have to answer the question. It shouldn't be asked in the first place, but we ask it, and Jared puts him in a position to just straight up like lie to us. It sucks.
Play as well. A lot of the new vehicles come with new or updated gameplay, and it's a lot more time efficient to do that in a new vehicle than it is to go look at one of the old backlog ones, which probably at this point needs a concept pass as well. Concepts are another finite resource that we need to manage. Not that we want to never do those backlog ships. We do. They just come with a larger cost than all the things we've learned over these years.
Originally designed with older metrics, with older ideas, older processes.
Well, look at the Carrack as a prime example, right? The original concept, the interior, did not fit in.
Explain this to me. How is that different than making a new ship? Even if it comes at a cost, how does going to a backlog ship that you already have a clear vision for now, like a somewhat clear vision, I don't understand this answer. It's the same thing. They're the same picture. Except one, you have a little bit more of an idea of what you're going for.
Inside the ship. To try and get everything inside that ship, it was never going to happen. So we either cut scope on the ship, or
we had to take it
increase
back
its
to
size.
concept.
Yeah. So it had to go back to concept, but then the concept artists have a situation where they're trying to preserve the old ship while also add everything that's needed, and it is arguably more difficult than doing a fresh concept, and we do want to get the vehicles out with the new features, the small game.
So just don't.
Gameplay loops, and it's not that
make the ship how it was supposed to be made. Make the Carrack a little bit bigger if it needs to get bigger. Change the shape a little bit. They did it with the engines in the back. Do it with everything else.
Never going to get done, but certain time boxes, especially if a gameplay team says we're going to have this feature ready for this quarter,
right. Like,
we want to try and have the vehicle ready to go, a vehicle to go out with that feature.
Yeah,
exactly.
a lot of the older vehicles.
Once again, this goes back to the thing we were discussing before. Gameplay will sell the ship. I do think the visual of the ship sells it, but I think the visual of what players will do with it in their head sells the ship more than the way it looks. I'm only speaking for myself, but the way a ship looks is secondary or tertiary to the way it would act. Make the ship right the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the seventh time when it comes to the constellation. Make it work, and then try to put it within the visual of what it was giving to you before. It's crazy to me that this
do have
I just
gameplay
don't buy
ties
it.
now. Like we sort of got through that backlog of ones that don't have gameplay tied to them. So things like the Starliner, yes, we could do it.
But there'd be nothing to do.
There'd be nothing to do. We don't have VIP transport, or it's not VIP. We don't have transport missions. We don't really have NPCs getting on and off our ships. So again, we'd do it.
But they were at CitizenCon 2018. What happened?
Spend a bunch of time on it, and if the gameplay team hasn't done their work, it's sort of
Or if it's just not a priority for them. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Although if it changes,
server meshing or doing Starliner.
For you, 4.0 with engineering and life support will change the gameplay for ships a lot. 100%. It will completely change most of the ships. That's the gameplay I'm talking about.
Well, my understanding from reading.
In the past, you absolutely destroyed me for using tertiary as a descriptor. It's actually a meme from now for me from some other podcast that I listen to. But yeah,
Social media is that marketing just tells you what you have to do.
Marketing certainly have a say in what they would like, but at the end of the day, it comes down to Chris, Rich, myself, balancing that with what's best for the game.
you think they're balancing it well? How's that balancing act going?
Like Xbox opinions.
That's right. I'm realizing there's absolutely nothing I can say here that'll change anybody else's mind, so we'll just move on.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do because the actions speak much louder than words.
Let's see. We talked about how there's a disconnect between the disconnect that sometimes exists between the ship and the ship features. So like that, I don't think we need to relitigate that. Let's talk about variants. So with the Firebird and the Nursa, do you like it when it's called the Nursa?
I love it.
Only heard about that recently. I wish we'd figured it out during the actual development, because we always nickname ships when they're going for development just because it happens organically with the team. We never came up with Nursa, and I love it. I wish we'd figured it out.
It's a good.
So the
It
Firebird
sticks.
and the Nursa are both variants of existing vehicles. Like I said, I've been here a decade now. I think occasionally we go back. Occasionally, like the Masters of Flight series, when we did 4 new variants of existing ships and stuff. Sometimes we go back, but we haven't a lot in the past. You know, it's a lot of our time and effort has been focused on either finishing up the backlog or creating new things for new game features and stuff. We don't always just look at what we have and be like, you know, if we tweak this and tweak this and tweak this, we could get another purpose out of it. With the Firebird and the Nursa here, is this a turning point for that? Are we now looking to make more variants, to go back to look? Is this just a coincidence and I shouldn't make anything of it?
I think it's mixed really, because as we've already kind of
easier.
spoken quite a lot about, is about, you know, that schedule Jenga that you've got to play to try and get, or Tetris.
If that's easier, then why is going back and fixing other ships difficult?
So you've got to try and play to get things in to work together. It does tie into also bringing ships up to our kind of current standard as well, because
ESCL's on YouTube if you
a
want.
lot of the
Halfway
time
through.
that going back and revisiting other ships to bring them up to kind of the current standard, it's not a short amount of time. It's not a short amount of investment that goes into it. The Retaliator is an example. You know, a lot of things have changed since that ship was made, and we keep internally we're like, oh, it's like an onion. Like you take one layer off, you're like, oh, wait, no, we need to do. Okay, that layer comes off, and you're like, oh, no, that means we need to do that. And like, you know, before you know it, you're kind of almost back to square one, but you're trying to.
It was the same with the whole sea.
Same with
We
the
had to
whole-
limit
yeah.
what we did because then you started noticing more.
Yeah, and it's about like
restoring an old car.
yeah, but you want to retain some of its original character as well. You don't want to go in there and make a Mark II. You want to kind of like build on it. But sorry, with the variants, if we're bringing stuff up to current standards and we're making a variant at the same time, it becomes a little bit easier because you're kind of like
Get more from the same work.
yeah, like I think you were saying earlier that when people have got into that particular zone for that particular vehicle or art style, whatever it is,
I feel like they're contradicting
it's quicker
themselves.
or
You're already there in the files,
Yeah,
in
you-
the guts of it. It's not
Is this
So-
not
too much extra
contradicting
work
themselves?
to sprinkle
Am I
some extra
crazy?
time on it, right?
yeah. So I think we are getting a little
Don't
bit
answer
more
that.
for our money by doing it that way. I don't think like we quite often kind of we'll see a post or we'll be chatting and we'll be like, it'd be great if we did, I want to do a
Crusader Jalopy. Giuseppe.
or
I love how it's now
cut a
kind
bounty
of
hunting ship
shit.
or whatever it is. Like there's lots of things that we talk around between ourselves because we're like, that'd be super cool. And sometimes those things are like, actually, that'd be super cool, and it fits. And sometimes it's, that'd be super cool. We'll put it in the bank of ideas that we could do when we get time, when we get to it. But you say it's a big balancing act between what the game
Sorry, I
needs,
already
what
did.
we want to do as a team, and what we're asked to do
And
from
where
other
the shifting
departments.
priorities are.
Variants are a great sort of new
I'm
starter
here. One
task
sec.
as well as their first real meaty project. We talked about this briefly at CitizenCon that we had lost a lot of people from the team over the last year, and we've been rebuilding. So Montreal was their first task were the 2 cutter variants. The Nurser was someone's first project. Same for the Firebird, and then there will be more. And again, they're great things to, here's an existing ship, you can see how it all works. We want you to change X, Y, Z. You get to see the whole process, get something out the door, and then you're ready for like the next big thing start to finish. So Montreal did the cutters and then went on to the Zeuses. So the Zeuses will be their first full start to finish, but they ramped up with the cutters.
Literally
That's another great
contradicting
point that we
himself.
didn't even include in the how do
From
we
the
decide
going
what
back
chips.
and
the idea that,
reconcepting.
a variant is a great starter, task for a new artist and stuff. It's
I would just add to that it's great when the ship's sort of, fairly up to date. It's the gold standard passes tend to require like a significant amount of sort
Okay,
of weird
This-
CIG
he's-
knowledge, I guess I would call it.
he's
You know,
answering the
yeah,
question.
you need a lot of understanding of how our systems
your
work and
CIG knowledge.
weird CIG knowledge, like just understanding really the in-depth, stuff of a ship, and how to take it apart and put it back together, right? Newer stuff, you've got like a fresh start, I guess, or you've got at least something more kind of tidy to work with, or more up to date with our like current standards. So you're kind of building upon something that's already quite polished. Whereas if you're taking something that's like quite old,
mean, the
the
Raven's
standards have
quite old.
changed, the way we do things have
The
changed, and you
Ursa's
kind of
old.
have to, you have to know the good practices.
Yeah,
I guess he means like really old.
To
You want people
recognise
to
the bad
learn
kind of
the
practice.
bad way of doing things.
Yeah.
Right.
You want people to learn the right way of doing things.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
And
yeah.
this is all normal stuff that happens with any game. It's just that most games aren't open to the public during the course of
and,
their
and a lot of
development.
the times,
These things don't happen at other studios. I can't stand that communication from them. This doesn't happen anywhere else. This doesn't happen anywhere else because these ships would not be completely polished and finished and shipped and sold. It's such fucking bullshit. I am so tired of hearing that. That is such a just like weird way of communicating it to people, right?
if you
Diablo 4 was open development. Yes, a lot of fucking games are nowadays. That's true. But those games call themselves released in 1.0, which is maybe worse. But at least definitely worse. But yeah, I can't stand that part of the conversation when they do it every time.
go, well, to be honest, even like AAA games now take years and years, so it's not even like our life cycle is particularly long in compared to a lot of other games that are a third, quarter of the scale of what we do. But a lot of the time, you'll develop pipeline and processes, and you lock that in. You get to a certain point in that game's development, and you lock it in and go, right, this is it. We're finishing it.
When's that going to happen?
Whereas obviously with our game, we have the luxury of constantly evolving our tech and our pipeline processes, and you can hopefully see the improvements with the latest patch.
So the answer is never. He literally just said never.
Some of that stuff's come online. It really makes a massive difference to our player base. So we absolutely want to be at that kind of cutting edge of making the best we can.
Whose luxury is this for?
So our processes do change, our quality standards change, our visual detail levels change, and we're always trying to push that stuff forward.
You mentioned the Retaliator gold standard, so I gotta ask about modularity. So modularity was this.
You know what? The Retaliator gold standard is probably the experience they're speaking from, because that shit took a really long time, didn't it? I forgot about that.
Big concept we introduced back in 2015.
Someone in chat says the worst gold standard ever. I don't think it looks that bad, but at the same time, maybe the arguments they're making about how hard it is the reason why you're not happy with it.
I remember it was literally one of the first comlinks I ever wrote up as a community manager for the project way back when. We made a lot of promises back then about doing this and doing that and doing this other thing and whatever. And then
Jared said the P word.
2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. I mean, there's no point in hiding it. It's been forever. Yeah. It's been forever. Now with Invictus, now, like you said, you always add something to every patch.
That's pretty based.
The modularity thing is, the fire started back up. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of modules that are available for Invictus. It's a very small selection. But is this the start? Is this a turning point, or is this just here? Take this, and we'll be back in another 8 years with more modularity. Like, what is this?
Ooh, I wouldn't answer this question. I wouldn't answer this because everything's always changing, but I'm glad he asked it.
So for the most part, depending on, there's a couple of different levels of modularity. So you've got the sort of modularity you have with the...
Jared's just putting the scopes pointed right at these guys, right? Like putting them, just setting them up to fail in these cases. Like no matter what they say, he's setting them up to fail.
MPUV, where the pod can detach and attach. We're still not there yet, but for something like the Galaxy's pods or the Retaliator's pods, where it's something you take somewhere to swap out for you, we're now at the stage where we can do that one. So ships moving forward that would have the feature will have it, and older ships, when we get round to doing the gold standards of those ships, we can revisit the modularity to introduce it to the ships that need it. But it depends on which version. So there is still some tech needed, but for the base level of being able to swap out the modules inside of the ship that needs swapping out, we can actually do that now, like you see with the Retaliator right now. It swaps in, swaps out. You can get the torpedoes, you can get the cargo. It depends what you want to do with the ship. So that's working. Big shout out to the team. Got working on time. Works really, really well.
So with the Retaliator in 3.23.1, we didn't have a chance to talk about it.
I'm watching the show.
It's the torpedo module that they've had in there. It can now just be swapped out.
Yep.
The new module is a cargo module, so you
Yes.
can turn it into a cargo ship and everything with the proper grid and everything. And then the blank base module, because if you have to pull it out, you have
freebie with that.
You have something to put in there.
Yeah, but it depends which one you got, right? Although people have had the loaner for a long time now, which was the Retaliator bomber, which was the torpedo variant, it depends which version they got, because they might have bought the base, they might have bought the base with all the different modules. It depends what they purchased.
Don't even get me started about the Retaliator bomber with torpedoes.
We changed it. It's now torpedo.
Can we talk about what's next? I don't want to. No win. I'm not going to ask you a win. But what are the next modules?
I think we've shown
The dropship one.
Habs.
And the Habs / living quarters ones.
And then again, we've thrown around ideas about other ones. We talked about doing a hunting.
Well, we talked about a bounty hunter one.
Bounty hunter, yeah, like raptor cages for going to get things.
Medical one.
There's medical. Yeah, we could support a bunch of
obvious
different like gameplay features with it.
Make the Drake
I don't
caterpillar.
think you necessarily see
Make
I
the
don't know,
Drake
like a salvage
Caterpillar.
version or anything. So I don't think it's going to be a case of like all of a sudden it becomes like
Tyler
the
can do
Uber
everything
ship,
with
that
this.
does everything. I think it still needs to make sense as to what that vehicle's kind of role is.
Actually give it a bomber, a bomb dropping module. So
Would love to.
Yeah,
I do want to touch quickly on the torpedo one because I know there's an issue for some players at the moment who have the bomber one that they're missing their torpedo modules. Then Turbulent and Platform are looking into it. There's a couple hundred accounts. For some reason, when their pledges got converted from the old bomber to base plus torpedo module, did not get the one, but that is being looked at. So I've seen a few issue council things on it. But it's being looked at.
So let's move on to ground vehicles. It's not just all spaceships and stuff. The Pulse, certainly, changing things for bunker missions and life inside space stations at the moment. Did you tell anybody on the mission team you were doing this?
I mean, as John says at the very beginning, we send out an email to every lead and design.
It's not new. When it used to be, I remember back in the days of Port Olisar, people used to get the
PTV.
X1, PTV, and Dragonfly inside the airlock, and you go down to spawn your ship for the first time, and someone would just be sat in the middle of the globe on it.
And the goal was to make a vehicle that could fit inside everything. And
Success.
we were thinking more other vehicles, but it fits inside everything. So
I don't think it's really
there are
game
mechanisms that
breaking.
are supposed to sort of limit it and prevent it, both short and long term. Like if someone
tool
came and drove
for
their
stress
car
testing
around
your
inside here, the police are not going to be too happy about it.
I know that there are currently some issues with ground physics or whatnot, the Ursa bumping around or bouncing and stuff like this. Any joy for this? Any hope for this?
It's somewhere between network and physics. Looking at because there's a weird update problem where, and you can see it if you have a load of vehicles next to each other, that they all sort of bounce on their suspension at the same time. That's being looked at, which doesn't happen in the editor. So this, again, sort of the experience we have when we're developing these vehicles doesn't translate one-to-one with how it is in the live product, frustratingly.
Doesn't happen on my
People have seen
computer.
that, or hopefully have seen the fix for that for AI combat recently in the recent patches, that they've gone from being unresponsive at times to probably a bit too responsive now. It's the same with ground vehicles. There's still more we want to do with them. Like compared to spaceships, they don't have a huge amount of customization. We want to eventually go like upgrading engines, gearboxes, wheels, swapping your wheels out for different ones with them, so they have the similar sort of upgrade paths.
That's exactly what my next question was. Yeah.
But again, it comes down to gameplay engineers. Do we want to refactor that ground vehicle code? Because it is a completely separate code path. It's still based on a lot of the original CryEngine arcade vehicle code. Even though the wheel and tyre handling is all new from us, the underlying system is still sort of separate to vehicles. Talked with Chris a lot about just unifying them into just a vehicle system. But that requires someone to go, like, rather than this line in the XML that deals with engine parameters, it's an item now that goes on and drives those wheels. So again, priorities, we want to do it. It's just engineering directors, are you going to spend your time on this feature for
On
10,
meshing or
15
this?
ground vehicles versus whatever else?
That's fair.
Are ground vehicles as big a priority as spaceships? Are they an afterthought? Like how do you? I wanted to touch on this in the prior discussion, but how do you view ground vehicles in the scope of?
I think our games. It's a
They are the ships that release most without their features. Because every single one of them is lacking their features to some extent, or to a significant extent at this point. Right? Because there's nowhere really that makes sense to drive where you wouldn't or couldn't take a ship.
the whole universe, right? Like you've got planets that you need to be able to explore, and you've got space you need to be able to explore, and different players play the game different ways. So I think we need to support all aspects of that. So from my point of view, I love ground vehicles. I come from 10 years in racing games, so I definitely want to see more ground vehicles, more variety, more options and functionality. I don't think you can. Well, There's still space for more. I want to see motorbikes. It'd be nice.
Ground vehicle master modes when? It's already happened, man. Go look at the Clio Islands Gravlev leaderboards.
At the same
Ranger
time,
bikes.
Yeah, man.
We're just about at the
5 seconds
status
slower
update section.
than before
at the same
master
time
modes.
though, is because of the fact that the wheel system is the way that it is right now, we know that every ground vehicle that we make is something we're going to have to go back to.
You have to fix it again.
But
Yeah,
it's not even just fix it. The sort of
And I might still be able
rework
to.
we're talking there to change it from what it currently is to what it would need to be for this whole new system is a massive amount of work. So it's just like talking about a new feature, right? It's the same as talking about all the different modules we want to do for the Endeavour. It would be a
release them
huge
now.
amount of work to go back and change them all. So everyone we
Not
make,
just on you. You're talking about other teams.
Oh
They
yeah,
have-
Yeah.
It's not just us. It's a feature team that has to fix the actual wheel. So that's for argument's sake, say that happens. All the vehicles that are made will need to be fixed by us, by Tech Art, by Audio, by
use the
Specs,
new system.
To use the new system, and every extra vehicle we add is more debt that we're generating for that.
I'm
so
number one in the
don't get me wrong,
world.
we love ground vehicles like every other vehicle. I mean, it is just a vehicle, but it's knowing.
Somebody's in first place with a 60-second fastest lap and a 3-minute race on the leaderboards right now. I did it in 1 minute and 44 seconds and a 32-second lap, and I'm in second.
That we are at some point going to have to go back and do this. It's just avoiding having to have the exact sort of situation we had with the Staff era, where we made a vehicle just to get it out and then had to go back and retrofit a feature
I think
into
the
it because
leaderboards are
the
broken.
feature had slightly changed from how we made it at the time.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Okay, so from the chat, we've had a couple questions about the medbed respawning. As far as let me just rephrase this a little bit here. It says, "Did you change the medbed respawning just to sell more nurses?" David, I'm gonna tank this one because this one actually isn't some for you. Let's do Space Dad Light. Do we have Space Dad Light?
Space.
There we go. Hi everybody. Space Dad here. The question: did you change medbed respawning just to sell more nurses? I went and talked to design director for Squadron 42 in the Precision Universe, Rick Porter. He was on the last Star Citizen Live. You met him along with Rick and Rich and JJ. They were the makers of the original medbed spawning system back when they were just on the actor feature team. Back then, which is about 4 years ago, their intention was for all medbeds to allow spawning.
And they did. And then somebody else decided that they weren't going to anymore when they wanted to sell other spaceships.
And just for some to be at this distance and some to be at this distance. That was their original intent. It didn't get in at the time because of this, that, or the other thing. It was 4 years ago. But now that they're gone to Squadron and they're back and they're now overseeing the development of the Precision Universe, it was one of the first things they wanted to bring back. And thus, they did. Now, obviously, like anything else that goes into the Precision Universe, it'll be tested. It'll receive a whole bunch of feedback. It'll be adjusted as necessary. Maybe 50 and 20 is too long. Maybe it's too short. Maybe it needs to be 70 and 30. Maybe it needs to be 30 and 10. And what?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe this? 10 believing it the most, 1 believing it nothing. Everybody's very low. So whether this is true or not, it's time to look in the mirror, CIG, and understand that nobody believes you. The question's getting asked all the time, which makes you feel like you have to respond to it. No one believes you because of the choices you've made up to this point. You have lost the trust of your community when it comes to things like this. You have lost all of the trust. And it's very easy to lose trust, and it's very hard to get it back. So please don't get upset when we look at you and say this is a joke. Earn it back. And then you won't have to deal with this anymore.
It's a thing just like anything else that'll be adjusted. But the one thing that they really wanted me to remind you of is Death of a Spaceman. Death of a Spaceman is coming. I'm not going to sit here and say when, just otherwise to say that it's a lot closer now than it ever was at any point in the history of our development. And Death of a Spaceman will introduce a whole host of difficulties and challenges and detriments to your character should you choose to respawn over and over and over again. So looking at it through the context of Star Citizen today is of course natural and proper, and you absolutely should. And a lot of that feedback
Kevin,
that we're seeing is because of they're looking through
unacceptable.
it through the lens of Star Citizen today. But they are making decisions, laying the groundwork for Star Citizen of tomorrow and the day after and the day after. So remember Death of a Spaceman. You can still read an excellent write-up of it on the website. It's still pretty accurate. I think we're about due for an update. Actually, I'll talk to Rick about that and what the current intention of design for that is. I mean, we do have a big Citizen on event. Maybe we'll do it. That's not a promise. That's literally just me thinking off the top of the head. That might be a good topic for there. But yeah, keep that in mind. And that's coming. That's on its way. If that affects your purchase, if you don't want, just consent. Know that that's on its way before you buy, and enjoy getting back into the fight even quicker and more consequence-free for the time being.
Like, I don't think too many people are arguing that it was a bad decision. I don't think too many people are arguing that it was a bad decision. It's just like, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. And they don't like being made fun of. Then earn the trust back. That's all I have to say. You've lost all the trust on these things.
Remember that.
You got to earn it back.
All right, let's do that. Whew. All right, we've made people sit through 55 minutes of this. We put up a thread at the beginning of the week, collecting questions from the backers, and every single one. There were a couple outliers, and we worked them into the first half of the show. But almost every question was, "Where's my spaceship? Where's this? Where's that? Where's this other thing?" Stuff like this.
When?
So we have a pretty big reveal and stuff. But I want to talk about it. Set this up. Let's just talk about what's in the current pipeline. So that's really what it is. Because to be quite frank, if it's not in the current pipeline, if it's not being actively worked on right now, the answer is it's not being actively worked on. So we're going to talk about what is being actively worked on, and instead of sitting here for the next 15 minutes and saying, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, we're going to tell you what is being actively worked on, and you can infer that if your favorite ship name wasn't in that list and wasn't in this discussion that's about to happen, that it's not being actively worked on, and it will when we have time in the schedule and resources to tackle it. So, John, Ben, whomever. No, let's make Corey do it. No.
On the spot, Corey.
Honestly, Corey has explained things the most clearly so far. So maybe we do have Corey
actively in development.
Right. So if you go back and look at the CitizenCon presentation we did, we had a sort of teaser video. There was 10 ships in there.
Getting through a bunch of them.
What, 6 months past CitizenCon now? 6 months to the next one. We're halfway through those ships now. So the 5 that have not been released from that video, they're all in production. Yep, they're all in production now. With the exception of the Legionnaire, they should all be within that 12-month window. The Legionnaire, again, is going a bit further just because of gameplay. The gameplay teams can't support us for when we wanted to do it originally.
But you said 12 months or so. I loved it. I'm kidding. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. That is what you want to hear. That's what you want to hear. You might be upset you bought the Legionnaire. It's going to take a little longer to get it, but you're going to get it, hopefully, functional. That's what you want to hear.
Which is fine. But there is also a lot more than that. When we did that video,
Did I paused
people didn't know about
when
the
he said
Sulu
hacking
as well. So Santok Yar. So when we did that video, but there is also a lot more than that. When we did that video,
hold on, I gotta go back.
People didn't know. Legionnaire again is going a bit further just because of gameplay. The gameplay teams can't support us for when we wanted to do it originally, which is fine.
No,
but there is also a lot
hacking.
more than that. When we did that video, people didn't know about the Sulan as well. So Santok Yai, X1s, Spirits, Hornet Mark IIs,
Nursa.
Nursa.
Firebird.
Nursa was in there. Firebird wasn't in there. So that wasn't like, here's 10 ships. These are the only 10 ships that we're delivering. We're doing more than that on the sly as well.
Cool.
So of ships that people know about, obviously some of those ships we haven't revealed yet. We're not going to sit here and reveal a ship that hasn't been revealed on the show. But of the ships that people know about, right now, they have a name and they're aware it existed. Maybe they've pledged for it.
There's 2 from that video, and they're pretty much the 2 that people know about now. The first one is the Zeus. So the Zeus ES is coming at 4.0.
What's the
we
ES?
did the Lod Zero gate review for that
they
yesterday.
Yeah. So that was the one that Montreal kind of been working away since they've kind of moved on from the cutters.
What version is that?
Yeah, it's just past Lod Zero gate review. Smashed it.
Explorer?
It's looking so good. So
Ships
very,
without their
very excited to get that
gameplay.
one.
It's one of those ones that looks so terrifyingly good, you then have to go look at
If it's cargo, then
all
it
the
makes
other
sense.
things that
Yeah.
happen and go, oh, we need to...
We showed it to Chris last week, I think it was, and he was like, oh, it's
Yeah,
so new
cargo's the
standards. And
CL,
we're like,
right?
that's really, really good. It's a bit scary, but really, really good. So yeah, very, very happy with it.
So
Okay.
Zeus is in development.
The Zeus ES is in development. That will come first at 4.0. The CL is coming after that.
Surprising.
And then the MR will come a bit later.
Okay. I know we're working on a couple variants of existing ships.
Yeah.
I think Brand approved us to reveal
Yeah.
that there's another.
There's another Sabre, probably the one that people thought the Firebird was going to be. It's that. That should be soon, TM. Not giving dates. And then, there's...
What did people think it was going to be? I think people thought the thing that I saw people thought it was going to be the most was interdiction.
Some of the other recent releases will be getting some variants.
Okay. There's a lot of resource network stuff
want it to
going on
be
that's
EMP,
taking up a
but-
whole lot of your time.
Yeah.
There's going through and retouching every single spaceship that's currently in game. Not all at once. You've got your top 10.
So
that you're working on?
it's going in 2 different parts. Like I was saying before, we can't partially do it. It's a whole new system for how resources get transported around the ship. So we can't have some doing it and some not. It's straight up a redo of the system. It would make no sense for some ships to use it and some not. They just wouldn't interact correctly with each other. So we've taken the most popular multi-crew ships, and they have got a full resource network pass where we've physicalized all the components inside the ship, so they're all physically there. They can be opened up, you can see them, you can repair them, whatever. That's with the top 10, not top 10, it's the most popular. It was the top 10, but some of them are variants of each other, so we've just taken the most popular ones. And everything else still needs a base level pass for resource network to actually allow them to function. So it's changes to their loadouts, adding the relays, and then making sure that they actually function, because we've got to remove the pipe
Dude,
system.
This is Master Modes V2 again.
We're also using it as an
So much
opportunity,
work.
what we mentioned at CitizenCon, where we talked about why the Zeus had way more shield generators and everything else. We're actually using 4.0 as the opportunity to do those changes. So there's a huge amount of changes to other ships as well with their component numbers and sizes and things. The ones mentioned before, that will all be physicalized. The others, they won't be physicalized, so they'll be invisible inside the ship, but you'll still be able to change their loadouts and things. But that's not all for 4.0. We're also having to support other features that are coming online. I won't go into too much details because it's other feature teams, but it's huge sweeps across all of the ships, and we need to get all that stuff delivered.
I just
because
got yelled at, guys.
as we've had,
I left the pickle jar
the
out
stuff that everyone saw at
with a fork on
CitizenCon
top of it for later.
come down into the PU. It doesn't just magically work. We need to actually go in and change the ships to actually get them to work with that. So we did the markup pass for all of the mini maps inside the ship, so that, get a nice map when you bring it all up. But this is all extra
Meal
stuff
prep.
that we spend time and takes resources to do.
Right. So the Zeus.
Yes.
The 2 of the Zeuses this year.
Yes.
The two of the Zeuses this year. That's not an easy thing. A couple variants of existing ships. Obviously, the brand new vehicles that folks can always expect to come through a thing that we're not going to spoil here. all that work going back and touching the existing ships and preparing them
which
for
is
Resource
so
Network.
much.
Some of them need their gold standard in order to come up for the Resource Network. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of backlog coming. There's something big on the backlog that's taken up a lot of resources.
Maybe missing about 8 artists worth of resources.
Okay. Now, what's the big thing on the backlog
Band of
that's coming
Merchantmen?
this year, though?
The Polaris is coming.
Saying it very quietly.
Yeah.
Saying it very quietly.
What?
It's the Polaris. Like, although people have obviously seen the teasers
Everybody
and
knows
trailers,
that.
and the outside looks very, very nice. But that's because that's what we focused on. That one had some of our most talented artists on it to try and get it to a highest possible standard in time for the flyby and everything. Big shout out to all of our art team that's been putting so many hours into it.
Big reveal.
I think like Alex, Dan, Lloyd, it all kind of smashed that exterior. Obviously, we've only shown the exterior, or are only showing the exterior so far. The exterior, we've kind of it technically is in grey box, but obviously visually it's far
We're not
beyond that.
we're not talking about the flyby in Invictus. There's a bunch of chat saying, didn't we already know that? No.
Oh, sorry. I know.
There's
We're
a
talking
flyby
about
in Invictus.
the actual
It's the
release as
exterior.
well. Yeah. So we're not. We haven't just made the exterior and gone.
We're talking
Here it
about
is.
full flight ready.
Yep.
Yep.
Released to the backers.
Yep.
They can fly it and use it
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
Yes.
When?
Which one on the camera? I'm going to recreate what we'd filmed for ISE that's now redundant.
That one. You're looking at
This
it now.
one.
That one.
So the Polaris is going to be flight ready, fully released at IE this year.
So IE this year, not 4.0,
Not 4.0.
but
IE.
whatever the patch
Whatever,
number
yeah.
for Invictus is.
Yeah.
And you're ready to go on record for that.
I think
What
I
happens
just
if
did.
you don't make it?
It will come out at IE.
What happens if you don't make it, Ben?
Well, he's my boss. It will come out at IE.
You'll get nine
right.
developers.
So-
my headphones
sorry,
are about to die.
just before. Also, massive shout out to all the interior guys as well, because we've got a whole other bunch of artists that are smashing the interior. It's not at the level where we wanted to show it yet, but yeah, they are ploughing through that work, and it's going to be great.
You'll-
Big ships, a lot of rooms. Yeah.
You'll see a
It's
bit of the
huge,
interior
dude.
gray box on ISC
Oh, of
next
course.
week.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you'll see the current
Oh,
status
cool,
of the
okay.
interior gray box on ISC next week.
See, I-
But yeah,
I think that's what we're missing a little bit. So it's not super exciting at the moment because we haven't seen the interior. Everyone in the room that's talking has, so they're kind of like, excited for something that we can't comprehend. I think that's what's going
this
on
year,
right now.
obviously that's a huge undertaking. Mark, you're going to be a meme after this week's show of just saying it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work. The Polaris is a lot of work.
It's
Yeah.
taking up almost half of the UK art team.
Yeah, just under half the UK art team
Yeah.
have been focusing on it.
So literally to get it done this year, that's half the UK art team on it to get it done. Obviously that means fewer ships are going to release this year probably. We'll know that by the time we get to the
to
end.
be fair, we've kind of absorbed it, as they like to say in the industry. Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
You've absorbed the additional thing.
So we've made some efficiencies elsewhere. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, massive ones
Massive
actually.
Shout out to Guillaume and the Montreal Tech Tools team for giving us auto lods.
So to summarize for folks before we sign up, we're a few minutes over. Ships in active development.
Oh, so they got some tools that speed up something big time, apparently.
The Polaris,
Yep.
two of the Zeuses, the
ES and the CL.
the one start with the L, not the Liberator, the
Legionnaire.
Legionnaire.
Yeah.
Saber variant.
Well,
Some variants that you don't know about, and some new ships you don't know. But as far as the ships that you know about and stuff, those are the ones in active development. Everything else has no update to provide for you right now.
Okay.
That's just me being real with you, and being honest with you, and hoping you'll appreciate it. So,
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I do. I think this is the right way to go about it, is to just say what you're working on. It's the choices that they've made around the roadmap of just showing you what's coming next, I think was the smartest thing that they could do. It is way more I think it works here. It just doesn't work because you're financially invested in the ship. So you paid for it, therefore you want it. Like I saw somebody literally say, fuck you, CIG in chat, because they're not getting their Apollo. I don't give a fuck about that ship. You know what I mean? You said it. Well, I don't care. You know, I don't care that you're not getting that ship. So you're speaking for yourself. I get it, and you're frustrated. But I think in general, just telling you what they're working on is a lot better than telling you, all right, after this, we're going to go to this, and then we're going to do that, because then they change their mind, and then you get even more mad.
Guys?
Like, why are you mad about the Apollo? Because I think it was on the list of something that was getting worked on at some point, so you were hoping it was going to be there, and now it's not, you know?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Obviously, you've got your work cut out with you with getting the first. I know we refer to the 890 as a capital ship and stuff like this, but I feel like there's something we can argue till the cows come home over what's a capital ship. The Polaris is going to be the first kind of, nobody can argue that that's not
combat capital ship.
Yeah, it's got all the capital ship
It's
features
large.
that it needs to be capital.
Yeah, so you got a big task ahead of you this year. You're going to do it. So thank you so much
It may or may not be larger, but it feels
for your
larger.
time. Thank you for being here on the show with us this week. I know these aren't always the easiest things to get through. I appreciate you taking the tough questions and allowing me to put them towards you. Folks, if you haven't, check out this week's ISC. It revealed the brand new Sabre Firebird, which looks super cool, and the new Nursa. We all like that name. We're going to.
We love it.
I'm not sure
Nursa.
about it.
When you dine it, it's
Medevac, that's debuting at this year's Invictus. Come back next week. Next
They
week's
said it was in
ISC
active
is part
development, a
2
sprint
of the
report before
Invictus.
CityCon
We're
last
revealing
year.
a brand new
Gotcha.
concept vehicle that's coming up on at Drake Defense Con. I think I can. I already said it, so it doesn't really matter whether I could say it or not.
It's spoiled now, Jared.
What did he say?
It's really cool though. Like
When you dine it, it's
Medevac, that's debuting at this year's Invictus. Come back next week. Next week's ISC is part 2 of the Invictus. We're revealing a brand new concept vehicle that's coming up on at Drake Defense Con. I think I can. I already said it, so it doesn't
Do you think they're going to sell? Oh no, that wasn't
really
Drake.
matter whether I could say it or not.
It's spoiled now, Jared.
Yeah, it's really cool though. Like I'm absolutely in love with it. I was just talking to Gav about it all
Oh, if Jared likes it, I'm not going to like
weekend
it.
at Beacon about it. And then of course we will take that inside look.
Hopefully not too loudly.
What?
Talking to Gab all weekend at Beacon about it. Hopefully it wasn't
Jared's style of things, I've never been
too
into.
loud a conversation.
No.
Okay.
And then of course
Megaphones.
we'll take a look at the current
We'll see.
inside gray box progress of the Polaris that you'll see flying around at this year's.
I will continue to say this because I truly believe this. Any concept that is coming, and I think that they should probably speak to this, if it's true or not, at some point. Any concept that is coming out like now, how could it possibly be a part of 1.0? How can any of, even backlog ships might not be a part of 1.0? I think that the next communication should probably be about what's making it in and what's not. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, at some point they really need to stop making concepts. And he said vehicle. So in this case, it's probably something small. It's probably something that can make it in. It's probably not a big deal, right? But as far as like large ships, capital ships, I think if we saw a large capital concept at this year's event, you know what that is. That is a money grab and nothing else, right? And they didn't do that. As far as we know, they have not done that. We'll see what this Drake thing is.
Event. So for John, for Mark, for Ben, for Corey, I'm Jared. Take it easy, everybody.
What was
Did
that?
you break it?
Don't know.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
We'll see you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
That was funny. All right. Well, I mean, that episode was better than I thought it would be. I'm going to be honest. I thought it was going to be really bad, and it started off like where I was ready to fall asleep, but it got better. It got better about halfway through, I would say. And yeah, it got interesting. So we'll see. I'm more excited for next week than I was this week. Polaris, the interior, I'm really interested in seeing. The exterior, I'm not a fan, but the interior of ships is what makes me want them. And then, yeah, whatever this Drake thing is, I'm pretty hyped about. And yeah, chat makes things entertaining. So that's why I always keep it on screen, even for YouTube. I think it makes it a little bit better. But we'll have to see. And yeah, that was SCL. Just gameplay. One day gameplay. One day. Not today, though.